Tonight, we're live in Beijing as the superpower summit comes to an end. The new details we're learning about what was agreed upon as we track major breaking news back at home. The stunning international operation, the FBI taking this man into custody, saying he planned terror attacks in New York, Los Angeles, and Arizona. That suspect accused of coordinating attacks across Europe. This stabbing rampage in London and a synagogue firebombed in Belgium, how officials tracked him down. Also tonight, President Trump's red carpet walkout, capping off a historic summit with China. What Trump says happened behind closed doors with China's leader. The progress he's touting over trade and how both sides came together over the war with Iran. Did this meeting mark a monumental shift in relations between both countries? We'll explain. With a U.S. arms deal stalled, Taiwan is taking matters into their own hands. We get an inside look at a drone factory ramping up production. The massive explosion at a lumber mill, nearly a dozen injured, emergency crews rushing to put out raging flames. What set off that blast? Wildfire emergency, raging flames burning through buildings, plus the dust storm blinding drivers, sending debris flying. Waymos go wayward. Wild video of the self-driving car circling a neighborhood cul-de-sac endlessly. Bumper-to-bumper backups. Is it a serious glitch? And railroad ramming, the train barreling through, sending this truck flying. What happened next? Plus, health officials sounding the alarm over a new Ebola outbreak, where those infections are surging. Top story starts right now.
This is a special edition of Top Story, live from China. Reporting tonight from Beijing, here is Tom Llamas.
And good evening again from Beijing. We are live from Rattan Park in the heart of the city. This park, the site of an ancient altar known as the Temple of the Sun. The day is just beginning here as the superpower summit between the U.S. and China comes to an end. President Trump bidding farewell to Beijing after another round of intense face-to-face meetings with President Xi. We have new details tonight on what came out of this whirlwind summit, the potential deals on U.S. goods, and how China could help with the war in Iran. Moments ago, the president touching down in D.C., so what promises, if any, did the U.S. come away with? We'll have more on the summit in just a moment. But first, we have some breaking news about that war and the attempt to bring it to America's shores. Federal prosecutors tonight announcing the arrest of this man, the leader of an Iranian-backed paramilitary group accused of carrying out terror attacks across Europe in recent months and plotting new attacks on Jewish sites in New York, L.A., and even Arizona. These exclusive images show Mohammed al-Sadi being taken into custody. He's now in a New York jail cell. Officials say he's connected to more than a dozen horrific attacks in Europe, primarily targeting the Jewish community. And the FBI says his ties go all the way to the top of the Iranian regime. Photos show al-Sadi with former top commander Soleimani, who was killed in a U.S. drone strike during the president's first term. Our Tom Winter is following it all and leads us off tonight.
Tonight, the FBI and NYPD saying they've foiled potential terror attacks against Jewish sites in New York, L.A., and Scottsdale, Arizona. Plots, they say, are all tied to the Iranian regime. This man, Mohammed al-Sadi, now held in a New York jail cell, is an alleged high-ranking member of the mysterious terror group called HAYI. Authorities say they've already carried out 18 terror attacks in Europe, primarily targeting the Jewish community, including this suspect, tackled by British police after a stabbing rampage outside a London mosque, and the group carrying out the firebombing of this Belgian synagogue. Tonight, the FBI says HAYI is a front for the Iranian-backed terror group Hezbollah, and they say al-Sadi's ties go right to the top of the Iranian regime. Multiple photos show al-Sadi with former Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps commander Qasem Soleimani, killed in a U.S. drone strike during President Trump's first term. Al-Sadi has specifically threatened to kill President Trump on social media.
He is certainly a leader in this terrorist organization, and he was directing and inspiring terrorist attacks.
These photos, exclusively obtained by NBC News, show his arrival in New York last night after he was taken into custody by Turkish authorities, according to prosecutors. They say since April he's been communicating with an undercover officer, offering to pay tens of thousands of dollars to attack Jewish sites in the U.S. Well, Tom, al-Assadi was in a federal court in lower Manhattan today to answer for those charges after being brought over from Turkey overnight. And this was his first appearance, so he didn't need to enter a plea of guilty or not. That'll be likely at a hearing sometime later this month. He did want his attorney to tell the court and tell the judge they believed he was a prisoner of war. Of course, the backdrop of all of this, Tom, is the security threat in this country, given the ongoing tension in the Middle East and the war there, with the FIFA World Cup starting in just less than a month. Tom.
Okay, Tom, thank you. Now to the superpower summit here in Beijing. President Trump tonight touting new trade deals with China. Touching down back in Washington just moments ago, here's what he said as he returned to the White House.
All I can say is that was a great success. It was fantastic. We made great deals. We did great trade deals. We have great relationships, and a lot of things have happened, and you'll be hearing about them. But that was a tremendous success. I think it really was a historic moment. Thank you very much.
And tonight we're learning more about what happened in those closed-door talks with President Xi, including talks on the conflict with Iran. Tonight, President Trump back home after that whirlwind summit here in Beijing. China rolling out the red carpet for President Trump until the very last moment. The president revealing more about his high-stakes meetings with China's President Xi, including on Iran, saying he did not ask China to pressure the Iranian regime to open the Strait of Hormuz.
I didn't ask him to put pressure because, I don't need favors. I think he will. I think automatically he'd like to see it opened up. He gets about 40% of his energy or his oil from that, from the strait. We get none.
Saying they had similar views.
We feel very similar to Iran. We want that to end. We don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. We want the straits open.
And tonight, President Trump revealing he could support a 20-year halt to Iran's nuclear program, but that Iran must end all of its nuclear enrichment, something the Iranian regime is refusing to do.
20 years is enough, but the level of guarantee from them was not enough. In other words, it's got to be a real 20 years.
On trade, the president looking to boost American businesses, bringing top American CEOs, now touting new Chinese orders of U.S. goods, including American agriculture.
The farmers are going to be very happy, and they're going to be buying billions of dollars of soybeans.
And Boeing tonight describing a very successful trip, reopening the China market, receiving an initial commitment for 200 aircraft. China announcing they've reached new common understandings with the U.S., but has not given any further details. All of it after President Xi took President Trump on a tour of the gardens inside Chinese Communist Party headquarters. And the president touting the relationship at tea.
He's a man I respect greatly, become really a friend.
What did they accomplish?
Well, I think the base minimum we can talk about in terms of accomplishment is some stability. We can say that perhaps things are less confrontational, at least for now.
But no progress so far on U.S. efforts to secure the release of Jimmy Lai, a pro-democracy publisher and critic of China's Communist Party, convicted of violating a national security law.
I brought up Jimmy Lai, and I would say the response to that was not positive.
And we're going to have much more from China in just a few minutes. But now we want to turn to our new reporting on Cuba. The U.S. Justice Department now seeking to indict former Cuban leader Raul Castro. And tonight we're learning just how soon that could happen. Here's Gabe Gutierrez.
Tonight, NBC News learning the Justice Department is pushing to indict 94-year-old Raul Castro, according to two U.S. officials familiar with the matter. He's Cuba's former authoritarian leader who still wields immense power and is the brother of the late Fidel Castro. One of the sources says the charges, which a grand jury would need to sign off on, would be related to a 1996 incident when the Cuban Air Force shot down two civilian planes piloted by a humanitarian organization, Brothers to the Rescue. Back then, the U.S. said audio showed the Cuban pilots celebrated the shoot-down. 4 Cuban Americans were killed. President Trump declining to comment on the report, but slamming Cuba's communist regime.
You talk about a declining country. They are really a nation or a country in decline.
protests have erupted in Cuba as fuel shortages have escalated. On Thursday, a remarkable sight in Havana, the CIA director meeting with Cuban officials. And it all comes as Cuba initially rejected a U.S. offer of $100 million in humanitarian aid. Tom with Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Cuba's foreign minister says that's an absolute lie, that there is no money coming. Are there any strings attached to that $100 million in aid?
The only strings attached is that they have to be distributed by non-governmental sources like the Catholic Church.
So what's the holdup? Cuba's lying?
Cuba, they're the holdup. They're lying. They lie all the time.
And with that, senior White House correspondent Gabe Gutierrez joins us again here on the ground in Beijing. So, Gabe, we have some breaking news about when the indictments may actually happen?
Yeah, that's right. A person familiar with the investigation tells our colleague Kelly O'Donnell that charges against Raul Castro were set to be revealed on May 20th. That's considered Cuban Independence Day. That's next week. So that new development coming just a few moments ago.
And then I do want to ask you about this aid offer. We had heard that Cuba's going to take it. I know you have some new reporting about something else. Rhetoric is ramping up now?
Yes, that's right. The top diplomat for Cuba inside the U.S. in an interview with The Hill today really ramped up the rhetoric against the U.S. You'll remember our colleague Kristen Welker interviewed Miguel Diaz-Canel recently, and he said that Cuba would defend itself if the U.S. were attacked. Now, this top diplomat is saying that Cuba is prepared to defend itself, that it could be a bloodbath in his words, and that he doesn't want to see any Cuban soldier killed or any American soldier killed. But certainly, Tom, even though the U.S. aid is now being accepted, according to Diaz-Canel, Cuba, the Cuban government, is still ramping up its rhetoric, and tensions are still really high between these two countries.
Yeah, the reason they're probably saying this is because they saw what happened right after Maduro was indicted and the U.S. went in there and extracted him. Could that happen to Raul Castro is the big question. All right, Gabe, we thank you for all that. While this historic Beijing summit has come to a close, questions about the future of Taiwan persist. A $14 billion U.S. weapons deal still awaiting approval from President Trump. The self-governing island, which China claims as its own, now preparing to defend itself if it must. NBC's Janice Mackey-Frayer got an inside look at a drone factory in Taiwan, now ramping up production.
In the rivalry between the U.S. and China, the biggest flashpoint remains Taiwan. And the billions of dollars in arms the U.S. sells to the self-governing island that Beijing claims as its own. Yet there are mixed signals from President Trump on support for Taiwan.
President Xi would like us not to, and I'll have that discussion.
With China's leader Xi Jinping warning any mishandling by the U.S. could jeopardize relations. Beijing wants Trump to delay or even scale back weapons deals, including a $14 billion package in limbo for months. On Air Force One, President Trump acknowledged that Xi asked him directly if he would defend Taiwan.
He asked you if you would send troops, if you would ask me if I'd defend them. I said, I don't talk about that.
After Tom's interview with Secretary of State Marco Rubio this week,
nothing has changed in the way the U.S. views the relationship with Taiwan. It will defend Taiwan, as has been.
Yeah, U.S. policy on the issue of Taiwan is unchanged as of today.
Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs thanking the United States for, quote, clarifying that it supports and values Taiwan's strait peace. But concerned that America may no longer have Taiwan's back,
Taiwan is expanding its own defense industry, producing drones. Companies like Thunder Tiger, that got its start making remote-control cars, now pivoting to drones for military use. Low cost, high volume, and built without any components made in China.
We have the capacity and the capability to set up our own fortress, the manufacturing fortress here. And first of all, it's non-red.
That non-red meaning not Chinese supply chain. Thunder Tiger, the biggest drone maker here, has its own motor factory.
So how many pieces a day?
There's about 1,000 pieces per day, and then there's roughly about 33 pieces per second.
The motors made here end up on drones like this. This is an attack drone, and this one company is making 2,000 a month.
Taiwan's drone industry grew out of lessons learned from Ukraine, where the war with Russia transformed what were specialized tools into cheap weapons and shown how much drones have shaped the battlefield. But the real catalyst here is China. Taiwan's government is pouring $1.4 billion into developing drones. Heavy armor still has a role, but in Taiwan's terrain, it's more constrained and vulnerable. The U.S. is also interested in Taiwan's air and sea drones to reduce reliance on drones made in China.
You want to shift from foreign military sales, which take a long time to deliver, to direct commercial sales, which are dual-use kind of technologies that can deliver faster.
With uncertainty in Taiwan about how far the U.S. might go to defend the island, drones are seen as a way to scale up and buy time.
All right, Janice joins us now here live in Beijing. So, Janice, the big question, how does Taiwan view what happened this week here in China?
Well, with those comments by President Trump and Secretary Rubio, Taiwan has taken the chance to weigh in a statement to remind people that China's military is routinely doing drills around the island and engaging in so-called gray zone tactics. China has never made any secret of its ambitions to unify Taiwan with the mainland, and it's why Taiwan has watched this summit so closely and has been messaging for weeks and pointing to those recent weapons sales as evidence for China that U.S. support for Taiwan is still there.
What are the lasting impacts, you think, of this summit?
Well, this summit came at a critical time for the U.S., for China, and for the world, for that matter. And the goal from the outset seemed to be stability, for these leaders to prove that they could cooperate or at least manage tensions. And that, for the most part, has happened, but on Chinese terms.
Yeah, we'll see what happens when President Xi comes to Washington later this year. Janice, we thank you for all your reporting this week. With the diplomatic relationship between the U.S. and China taking center stage this week, we wanted to get a window into how young people here view American culture and our country. I sat down with 3 young adults who live in the Beijing area, and we talked about everything from President Trump to Taylor Swift to their hopes and dreams for the future.
His life himself to actually.
Lori Jiao, Lucian Chen, and Viola Ma are all college grads or about to graduate, living in and around Beijing. I was curious about their thoughts on America.
So, what are some American brands or products you like?
Apple?
From you? Yeah, Apple.
Apple.
Yeah, Apple Watch here.
Yeah.
Who are some American artists you like?
My favorite artist will be Lady Gaga. Yeah, I'm a little monster. Yeah.
I was the fan of Taylor Swift since Love Story. I always feel there's a connection between me and her. Yeah.
For me, I've never been to the States. I think I've been growing up watching American films, mostly Disney and Pixar films, and of course on Universal Studio and everything. So for me, my impression of America mostly comes from those films. Mostly America is like a land that encourages creativity and freedom and kindness and purity. So for me, that's my impression.
I was exchanging there for a semester, and I do like the lifestyle that people are practicing there.
Do you guys all use ChatGPT?
Yes, of course.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but for me, I think it's more convenient to use like Doubao. Just Doubao. Yeah, Doubao is like the most prominent AI tool here in China right now. And I think the very core difference from ChatGPT is that Doubao is more fun. Doubao is more interesting.
It's more interactive.
So I don't just use Doubao for like research or work. I use Doubao just for fun, to chat.
So you use the chat bot like a friend?
Kind of. Yeah, kind of treat Doubao as a friend.
When you're on, an AI bot or you're on the internet, can you tell that you're being censored, that the government is blocking you from like firewall or like blocking you from searching something, or you're not getting, or maybe you're getting propaganda?
From the experience that I've had, I rarely met a situation like this before, because still we can search many things on the internet and probably everything, but I think there are some sensitive topics.
Can you get on American news sites?
Yes.
Without a problem?
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem.
What do you think about President Trump?
So I used to hate Trump, but I have to mention one person which changed my mindset about Trump. This is J.D. Vance now. I read about his book and totally changed my mind.
You read J.D. Vance's book?
Yeah.
Hillbilly Elegy?
Yeah, some political correctness in America, is rising, recently. And maybe Trump, he also represents some people who hate this kind of, political correctness. I don't think that the extreme political correctness is right. now in America.
So you hated Trump, but now you kind of like him.
Kind of like him.
And this answer from Lori about religion, where in China the communist government encourages atheism, surprised us. Anything else in American culture that you guys love?
Well, I wouldn't say it's love, but I've been really interested in Christianity recently.
Christianity?
Yeah. Like, I'm not religious, but like I have a couple friends that I met there, and then they were Christian, so like they taught me something about it. But like I am atheist personally. So like, yeah.
So you're Christian curious?
Yeah. I wanted to know like why they believe in God.
I also asked about a social media trend where young Chinese lie flat, just like this, after graduation. Some say it's a protest to China's slowing economy.
Some of them, you know, they were told to study hard by their parents, maybe since their primary school.
Yeah. And then they can't find a job.
Not everyone. I don't think not everyone. But you know, under huge pressure, they don't know what they really want to do. They were just told what they should do.
I feel like personally, I have a very different story to tell because just judge from the experience of me and like my peers around me, we don't really kind of lay flat. I feel like it's more about trying to explore where the opportunity lies instead of just like saying directly that you can't find a job.
But lying flat is very different. Lying flat is like to find a place for you to be who you are instead of being pushed forward.
What is happiness for you, do you think, looking into your future?
I think I will stay focused on my job for a long time in the future. I want to, you know, make real impacts.
So for me, happiness is like to have your own house, to have the books you like. I think my wish is simple, but of course it's not very easy to accomplish since nowadays the houses are very expensive to afford.
And with Beijing hosting that historic summit between President Trump and Xi Jinping, I wanted to know how they saw the future. Do you think in 10, 20 years, China and America are still friends, or do you think they are enemies?
I would picture them as friends because I feel like the relationship between big powers is never like zero-sum games, and I definitely feel like cooperation would bring more opportunity to both sides.
Well, I would say that I hope they would be friends, but you know, I think the reality is not like that.
And that sentiment is where we leave you tonight. We came to China to help us understand and show you what was going on. In front of the cameras, President Trump and China's leader Xi Jinping were all smiles. But behind closed doors, we now know China was direct about interfering with Taiwan. The Secretary of State told us the U.S. will not change its posture of supporting Taiwan. And that remains the biggest question mark. And in the battle for trade and tech dominance, America's CEOs were here, but we saw firsthand China's efforts to try and lead the world, building and exporting EVs on a mass scale and at a price point Detroit right now cannot match. And we walked among rows and rows of robots. It's plain to see these large, heavy machines will likely be used to do more than dance and clean dishes. As for the people in China, many of them are living in modern times. In major cities, cash is almost never used. Everything is done on the phone, on an app, and under the watch of this government. Much has changed in China since Nightly News started reporting from here in the 80s. Tom Brokaw and his team at times had to hide their cameras attached to bicycles to tell the real story during crackdowns. Now, cameras are everywhere, but to watch every one. So in many ways, China remains the same. As I walk Tiananmen Square, there is no escaping Mao Zedong looking down on the masses or the columns of surveillance. And as China grapples with its future and the U.S., we hope to keep coming back and tell its story. I also want to thank our NBC News team here in China and across Asia for their incredible work this week. I do know there's still much more news to get to tonight back in the States, and I want to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Ellison Barber, at the Top Story Studios in New York. Ellison, good evening.
Hey, Tom, thank you so much, and thank you for letting me be a part of watching your extraordinary reporting all week. What an incredible job you have done. We'll continue the news from here. We hope you get home safe. Still ahead tonight on Top Story, the fiery explosion at a lumber mill, prompting a massive emergency response. You'll hear the desperate call just moments after the blast. Plus, the huge dust storm blanketing a highway in North Dakota. Millions at risk for severe storms. We are tracking it all. And wild video showing the moment a train barrels into a truck. What happened to the driver inside? Stay with us. And we are back now with breaking news out of Maine. A massive fire and explosion rocking a lumber mill, sending multiple people to the hospital. NBC's Emily Aketa is following it.
A devastating fire ripping through a lumber mill in Maine today. Flames reaching above the tree line.
There's been a huge explosion. The silo just exploded. This is very bad. A lot of people are 3rd degree.
Searsmont firefighters, who are volunteers, had responded to a silo fire that then exploded, according to one fire department in Maine, injuring firefighters and civilians, as well as destroying several fire trucks. The Searsmont fire chief telling a local paper the explosion blew him 15 feet right through the air.
That whole building is gone.
Maine Health Medical Center saying it's now treating 10 patients at its Level 1 trauma center. You can see life flight helicopters arrive as officials declared a mass casualty event.
I walked up to this very chaotic scene initially, and not because of the efforts of the first responders, but because of the magnitude of the fire involvement and the amount of sheer buildings that were on fire.
Maine's governor urging folks to stay clear of the area, swarmed by local, state, and federal agencies, including the ATF. Drone video capturing the aftermath. You can see buildings reduced to ash. Robbins Lumber, a family business that owns and manages 30,000 acres, says all of their employees have been accounted for.
Buildings can be replaced, employees cannot.
As fire officials investigate what caused this perilous blaze. Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
Now, the wildfire and severe storm threat across the country that is putting millions at risk as flames sweep across portions of the South. Dramatic video showing a wall of fire lighting up the night sky in Kansas. And in Texas, fast-moving fires burning all across the Panhandle. People evacuating as the flames reach their doorsteps. And in North Dakota, a dust storm sending debris flying, drivers forced to navigate blinding conditions. NBC Miami meteorologist Larissa Abreu joins us now with more. Larissa, you've been tracking multiple threats. So take us through what you were seeing and what is the timing looking like?
So we're going to start things off with this red flag warning across many locations, expanding from the west coast of California to the Four Corners, back towards the Texas Panhandle, and then up through the northern plains. A red flag warning issued when we have critically low humidity, very strong winds, and of course, dry conditions over the area. That's why critical fire danger is going to be, well, critical as we continue throughout the weekend and into early next week. Let's move on and talk about the severe storms expected here as we head towards tomorrow. You could see the bullseye, the middle of the country, including places like Nebraska, where we could see strong wind gusts of up to 75 miles an hour, in addition to large hail. Now, as we head towards the day on Sunday, this is when we could see widespread severe weather. We're talking 12 million people at risk to see a few strong tornadoes, long-lived tornadoes, in addition to damaging hail and strong wind gusts. And then on Monday, probably the worst day, because you could see how many people at risk, around 43 million people with similar impact, with a few strong tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds across portions of the Midwest and back through the southern plains.
Larissa Abreu, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And coming up, a near tragic situation involving a high school senior assassin gang and a realistic-looking water gun. The new warning tonight. Plus, the wayward Waymos. These empty robo-taxis are taking over a Georgia neighborhood, driving in circles for hours. What the company says it's doing about it. We're back now with the terrifying close call caught on camera. A police officer nearly shooting a teen playing with a water gun after a neighbor called 911 concerned about a burglar. NBC's Stephanie Goss has the warning tonight over the popular senior assassin game.
Get on the ground. Tonight, new video showing how quickly the water gun game Senior Assassin can turn deadly serious. A police officer responds to a 911 call late at night in the Michigan suburbs, believing there might be a burglary in progress, according to local officials. He gets ambushed by a teenager with a gun, a water gun. Get on the ground. The rattled teenager apologizes. I'm sorry. We're looking for people stealing cars. The officer made a split-second decision not to fire. The teenager wasn't stealing cars. He was playing Senior Assassin. In the game that has become a spring pastime, players are assigned a target, a fellow classmate, to shoot with a water gun. The winner is the last one who stays dry. It's supposed to be just harmless fun.
But police departments nationwide are asking students to think carefully about how they play and use water guns that look like toys. The problem is some look like this.
Which has led to a string of close calls. Last week in Stoneham, Massachusetts,
he's got a black hoodie on. He's got a gun in his right hand.
A frightened neighbor called 911.
Looks like he's about to ambush somebody.
Get on the ground. The teenager was holding a water gun that looked like the real thing.
Put it down.
And in Wisconsin, police also responding to a 911 call. This time, a 17-year-old hiding behind a building.
That's how you get shot over something stupid.
The high school principal in Michigan is now calling on students to stop playing the game altogether, because a senior prank like this can easily turn into a tragedy.
Outside of that community in Michigan, police departments are saying they would prefer kids not to play this game at all, but if they are going to play, make sure they use water guns that look like toys, avoid disguises, and also don't trespass. They say stay off of private property and out of restricted areas. Allison.
Stephanie Gosk, thank you. Now to Top Stories news feed, and just in tonight, an emergency landing at an airport in Kansas City. An American Airlines flight touching down after smoke was reported in the cockpit. Kansas Congressman Tracy Mann says that he was on that plane and shared these photos. You can see passengers here evacuated on the tarmac. Luckily, officials say no one was hurt. And a scary scene in Virginia when a speeding train slams into a truck. Watch. That truck was destroyed. Chesapeake police say the driver was rushed to the hospital but is now in stable condition. The wreck apparently caused a temporary hazmat situation. Investigators say it appears the truck blew through a stop sign right before the collision. And a close call in Baltimore, a driver cruising by a stopped school bus almost hitting a child. Police releasing this video showing the driver slamming on the brakes just as some kids got off the bus and ran across the street there. The red lights flashing on the bus's stop sign. It is unclear if the driver received any sort of tickets or citations. Now to a new age neighborhood nuisance. In Atlanta, Georgia, residents say streets have been overrun by dozens of self-driving Waymo taxis going rogue and then cruising in circles without any passengers. NBC's Tom Costello has this one.
You might call them wayward Waymos, one after another driverless taxis, streaming into several Atlanta cul-de-sacs at virtually all hours of the day and night.
So as more were coming in, more were going out. It was just a constant stream of coming in around the circle.
After roughly 50 of them showed up last weekend, the annoyed neighbors put out a traffic turtle, but that only led to longer backups.
One of them almost did run over our cul-de-sac cat, Buddy, and so that was the final straw.
The robo-taxis appear to be in a holding pattern, waiting for their next assignment. Waymo tells NBC News it has already worked with our partner to address this routing behavior. It's the latest Waymo speed bump, coming just days after the company recalled nearly 4,000 robo-taxis for software fix, after some cars in Texas and California drove into flooded streets and stalled. In recent years, Waymos have also failed to yield to school buses and caused rush hour gridlock.
Nothing we are doing today with automated vehicle technology is safe enough. It's got to be better tomorrow. And that is the change in trajectory we need for vehicle safety in America today.
Waymo says it's already identified a software fix for the flooding issue, and it's refining its operations in extreme weather, and says it's 13 times safer than humans in crashes involving pedestrians.
Tom Costello, thank you. Now to our NBC News series, Business in America, where we speak to CEOs of some of the biggest companies in the U.S. And tonight, our Christine Romans takes a drive through the suburbs of New Jersey with the CEO of Zillow. Take a look.
Take a left and then an immediate right.
It's not every day your chief navigator is the chief executive officer of one of the biggest real estate platforms in the country.
Careful crossing
Look
here.
at this little sweet little place on the corner. But that's what I did with Zillow CEO Jeremy Waxman, checking out homes during another tough spring housing season for Americans.
How are you feeling about the spring selling season? What is the Zillow data telling you?
The Zillow data says that this is going to be a challenging year in the housing market, maybe a little bit better than last year.
The typical age of a first-time home buyer is now 40 years old, a record high. Home prices have never been more expensive this time of year. And there simply aren't enough homes for sale, and mortgage rates have doubled in the past 5 years. But one promising trend, Zillow says people can afford a little more this year.
The reason the affordability picture is getting better is as income growth outpaces home price growth, that narrows how unaffordable things are for people. And so the longer that happens, the more the market will slowly get back into balance.
You navigate, I'll drive.
Okay.
Waxman, using Zillow's data, showed us some of the features that make homes marketable today. First, character sells.
Some cedar shakes, bright green door.
If you look at the photos on Zillow, you see kind of unique features, right? So exposed beams and a big fireplace.
Zillow says exposed beams can add 0.3% to a home's price. A fireplace, another 0.8%.
Turnkey is really in demand right now.
Second, Waxman says with affordability top of mind, buyers don't want to have to pay to also renovate, making turnkey homes more appealing.
Homes that are move-in ready are selling for 2-3% more.
Another hack, the more the listing shows, the better.
If you're a seller and you give that information to a buyer, that's going to attract them to your listing. They're going to spend more time with your listing, and that actually helps your house sell faster.
More features like virtual staging.
Oh.
You can really imagine your style, what it'd be like to live there before you even come see the house.
In the 20 years since Zillow first came onto the scene, it's become more than just a real estate site.
I need a new fantasy.
Then you need Zillow.
Sparking an SNL spoof, even the HGTV show Zillow Gone Wild.
I'm Andrea.
And I'm Michael.
And this is our home from the future.
Phrases like Zillow surfing becoming a regular part of real estate lingo.
Zillow exploded overnight just by putting Zestimates on the web, giving people a chance to say, well, what might this house be worth?
Zestimate is the site's tool that assesses a home's market value. It's not perfect, of course, with some critics arguing it can undervalue or overvalue a home. Zillow saying Zestimates have gotten more accurate with time, but we've always been clear that no algorithm replaces a local agent or a formal appraisal.
Hey, honey, what do you think of this house?
Zillow is not alone. Other sites like Redfin and Realtor.com also give users access to the real estate data traditionally reserved for agents, like price comps.
What do you say to the agents who are like, wait a minute, you know, Zillow is just too big, too much of a behemoth, and it's eating into my job?
Yeah, I mean, technology comes regardless of whether it's Zillow or not, and our job is to help give agents the technology to keep up and become technology enabled for buyers and sellers.
As for what could turn around the housing market, Waxman says the key is putting more money in buyers' pockets.
A little bit of relief in mortgage rates, a little bit of relief in incomes rising, but over time, the affordability picture is only going to get better when incomes catch up to home prices.
Christine Romans, NBC News.
When we come back, a deadly Ebola outbreak, the highly contagious virus ripping through villages overseas. What you need to know. We are back now with Top Stories Global Watch, starting in India, where over 100 people are dead after storms ripped through the country's northern region. The system sparked a dust storm, slamming neighborhoods with hail, strong winds, and flooding. Officials have attributed many of the deaths to lightning, falling trees, and collapsed buildings. And in Russia, Ukrainian drones hitting an oil refinery in a city southeast of Moscow. Ukraine's military says they were behind the strike. You can see that refinery engulfed in flames. It comes after Russia bombarded Ukraine over the last 3 days, firing more than 1,000 drones at Ukrainian cities. And an Ebola outbreak just declared in a remote province in Congo. The highly contagious virus killing dozens with over 200 cases suspected, according to public health officials in Africa. NBC's Raf Sanchez is tracking it. Raf, good evening.
Hey, Ellison. Yeah, this latest Ebola outbreak concentrated in a fairly remote part of eastern Congo near the border with Uganda. The African CDC is saying at this point, at least 65 people have been killed in the outbreak. They're saying that there are around 250 suspected cases. Not many of those have been laboratory confirmed at this point, but people showing up at medical centers displaying the symptoms of Ebola. Now, that number, of course, could rise. And Congo, for better or for worse, has a lot of experience in dealing with Ebola. This is the 17th outbreak in that country since the virus was first detected there back in 1976. Now, the World Health Organization is saying that means the country does have some stockpiles of both treatments and vaccines. That is the good news. The less good news is that that stockpile is aimed at what seems to be a different strain of the Ebola virus, so it isn't clear how effective it's going to be against this current outbreak. One of the big challenges in the Congo is you have a lot of population movement. There's a lot of violence in the country, populations moving in response to the violence, and that can mean that the virus is spreading as those populations move. Quick reminder, Ebola has about a 50% fatality rate. That is significantly higher than COVID, obviously. It's higher than the hantavirus, which we've been talking about recently. It can be transmitted from human to human, usually in the form of bodily fluids, secretions, blood, things like that. The worst recorded Ebola outbreak back in 2014, 2016, concentrated in West Africa. You might remember President Obama took some heat politically for sending American teams to go and help fight that outbreak. Ultimately, that outbreak was contained, and public health officials say they are hopeful that they will be able to contain this outbreak as well.
Thanks so much for watching Top Story. For Tom Llamas, I'm Ellison Barber in New York. Stay right there. More news is on the way.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.